Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of True Crime with Kendall Rae. Thank you so much for joining me today. And if you're new to the show, then welcome. Be sure to hit subscribe so that you never miss an upload from me. Now, today, I am covering a case that has been so heavily requested. And I really thought about not even covering it because it's so crazy for so many different reasons. And also because I'm just highly disturbed by this case. But I've seen a lot of misinformation out there, and I wanted to do my best to collect what we actually know at this point into a consumable length and a format and timeline that makes sense for people that are curious about this case. And if you couldn't already tell from the title, today I'm going to be telling you about the case of Celeste Rivas Hernandez. She is the 14-year-old girl whose body was recently found in the frunk of a Tesla belonging to the singer David back in early September. And his stage name is David, spelled D4VD. And depending on how much time you spend online, you may or may not know who he is, but after this episode, you unfortunately will. This case has truly attracted the attention of hundreds of thousands of people. But what's so sad to me is that Celeste has really gotten lost in all the noise. I think that's obviously because David is famous. And if you were to ask someone who loosely knew of this case, not someone who's like fully dove into it, but ask them what they know about it or what they've heard, they can likely tell you David. They know David's name or David's stage name or like something about him, that he's a musician or he was famous on TikTok or Fortnite or whatever it is. But a lot of people wouldn't be able to tell you even Celeste's name. And as you guys probably have realized over time, I tend to either stay away from really viral cases or I wait to cover them to make sure that there's enough confirmed information. And what's wild is there is not a whole lot of confirmed information in this case, yet this is going to be a super long episode. And I'll be sure to tell you what's confirmed and what's not confirmed. But there's a lot out there that's being reported as if it is confirmed, which is really frustrating to see. We could be here for 6 hours talking about this case, potentially longer, if we went into every rabbit hole and theory and possible bit of information, whether it's confirmed or not. It's just kind of information overload for some people, and there are, plenty of media outlets and channels and podcasts that do that type of coverage. This is not going to be that type of episode. I also record quite a bit in advance. There's about a 10-day lag between my recording, like 5 business days. It's hard to explain. But yeah, there is a possibility that new information will come out before this episode goes live. If that's the case, if it's something that I really need to record, I'll record something short and stick it in there. If not, then there'll be something, pinned or in the description box. So just keep in mind, this is not an end-all be-all type of episode, but we will be going over the most important information, also telling you, what kind of information to be on the lookout for if you're planning to follow this case. It was also a difficult case to put together because a lot of the information is coming from internet sleuths. They have really been driving this case forward, and the police have been super, super tight-lipped. With all that, and I know that was a long, hefty intro here for a long, hefty episode we're about to get into, but what I do need to say is everyone that I'm speaking about today is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Certainly the public's opinion is a different story, but yeah, you know what I mean. Before we get into this case, though, I need to thank today's lovely sponsor, Simply Safe. And it's thanks to their support that we're able to continue funding grants through the Higher Hope Foundation. This video is sponsored by Simply Safe. There's no safe like Simply Safe. So it should obviously come as no surprise to any of you that I value my personal safety and also the safety of my loved ones. And when it comes to the safety of our home, I obviously want the best protection I can get. But I also want something that's reliable, something that's trustworthy, and also very convenient. And that's why I use Simply Safe Home Security. Simply Safe gives me the ultimate peace of mind when it comes to protecting the things that matter the most to me. I personally love that their app is user-friendly and makes arming and disarming the system super easy. And I love that I can easily view the camera feeds right from my phone, which I do all the time when we go on vacation, even when we're at the office. And what's also really nice is if I ever have a friend or a family member that needs to come drop something off at my house, I can disarm the alarm right from my phone before they go in and then just rearm it once they leave. Plus, there's no long-term contract, and their monitoring plans are also affordable, starting at just $1 a day with no hidden fees. You can also install it yourself if you're that type of person, or like me, you could opt in for professional installment, which is incredibly convenient. We also added SimpliSafe's Active Guard outdoor protection, which has been amazing. Unlike traditional alarms, which only alert you after a break-in has already happened, SimpliSafe's Active Guard works to stop crime before it happens. It uses AI-powered security cameras that alert monitoring agencies to suspicious individuals approaching your home. They can speak to them in real time, trigger alarms and spotlights, and even request police dispatch all before a break-in happens. So save 50% on your SimpliSafe security system when you sign up for a professional monitoring plan and get your first month for free. Just visit simplisafe.com/Kendall Rae to customize yours. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. Big thanks again to SimpliSafe. And with that, let's go ahead and get into this case, you guys. So I decided I wanted to try and break things up into 2 sections. I'm going to do my best to start with everything we know to be true up until this point, which today I am recording this on October 10th. And I believe this goes live on October 21st. So there's a good chance some more information will come out between now and then. Just keep that in mind, of course. But yes, I wanted to talk through all of the speculation and kind of theories that are going around after we go through what we know to be true. Like I said, though, I'm just trying to do that because a lot of this had to be interwoven. It just wouldn't make sense any other way. So please listen carefully for things that are facts versus things that aren't, because it's pretty hard to completely separate the two. Also, one last disclaimer. I'm sorry. I know it's been a lot, but this case is just crazy like that. There are things that could come out that could negate what I am saying in this episode. So please also take that into consideration when watching this video, especially if you're watching this weeks, months out. Okay, so Celeste Rivas Hernandez. She was only 14 years old, not 15, as a lot of people have been reporting. I think what has confused people is that her body was found the day after what would have been her 15th birthday, but it is a fact that she never lived to see this day. Celeste was born on September 7th, 2010, but by September 7th, 2025, she was gone. And as of today, October 10th, it has not been confirmed when or how she died. But here's what we do know, and that starts on August 26th of 2025. That day, people living in the Hollywood Hills neighborhood of Los Angeles on Bluebird Avenue called to report an abandoned Tesla. And although the exact timing isn't known, law enforcement has confirmed the vehicle, which had a noticeable dent in it, was parked there for several weeks. So the next day, on the 27th, a parking enforcement officer came by to mark the tire's position with chalk. Then on September 3rd, an officer came by again and wrote a citation for the car because the vehicle still hadn't moved. There's even a photo that was taken of the Tesla for the citation report where you can see it was covered in a film of dust, which obviously indicates that it hadn't been moved or driven. And after it hadn't moved by September 5th, which violated LA's 72-hour parking law, it was towed to the Hollywood Tow Impound lot. The Tesla sat there for another few days, but then on September 8th, LAPD was called to the lot after an employee reported an extremely foul odor coming from the car. Now, originally, when it was reported as abandoned, the citation did not mention a horrific odor. However, most sources say that neighbors distinctly remember a foul smell coming from nearby, which they actually attributed to a dead animal. What nobody could have anticipated, though, was that the smell was actually coming from human remains. When police opened the front trunk, which is also known as a frunk, that's where they discovered Celeste, and she was severely decomposed and also wrapped in plastic. So very disturbing. This is a 14-year-old girl that's found in the frunk of this Tesla, and who knows how long she had been there. According to a statement made by the medical examiner, the decedent was found severely decomposed inside a vehicle. She appears to have been deceased inside the vehicle for an extended period of time before being found. The medical examiner also reported that the victim had dark, wavy hair that she was 5'2" and weighed only 71 pounds. However, the remains were actually so decomposed that at first they couldn't even determine her age, her eye color, or even her ethnicity. It was confirmed, though, that the victim was wearing a tube top, black leggings, a yellow metal chain bracelet, and stud earrings. But there are, at this point, still a lot of big questions about the condition of her body. For example, a lot of the early reporting on this case said that she was dismembered, and some sources specifically said that just a head and torso were found. Other sources were less specific, but definitely described dismemberment. And they seemed so certain and confident in their reporting that I really thought the police had to have confirmed that at some point, but they haven't. According to an article from NBC News, law enforcement sources told NBC News that the remains were not intact. But we have to remember that intact and dismembered are two very different things, and these things do matter. Now, it's definitely possible she could have been dismembered, and I wouldn't be shocked if they came out and said that later on, but as of this point in time, that is just not the case. And that may sound really confusing to some of you. How was she not intact if she was dismembered? Well, there are other reasons other than dismemberment that could have resulted in her remains not being intact, such as really severe decomposition, which we do know to be true. You got to remember that she was found in a black car in the summer in Los Angeles, wrapped in plastic in a trunk, and we don't know how long she was there. So that means she was decomposing at a much higher rate. And just the fact that the medical examiner said that she was only 71 pounds is definitely proof of that. And what's frustrating is this had to have an impact on how much information they were able to learn in her autopsy. In a news release from the end of September, LAPD provided additional insight on how long they believe that she'd been deceased. It reads in part, the Los Angeles Police Department's Robbery Homicide Division, RHD, has been diligently investigating the death of Celeste Rivas Hernandez over the past several weeks. At this time, we can confirm that Celeste Rivas Hernandez is deceased, and her body was found in the front trunk area of a Tesla belonging to David Burke. The vehicle has been parked at the location from which it was towed for several weeks, so Miss Rivas Hernandez may have been deceased for several weeks before the discovery of her body. So given this time frame, plus the way that she was left, it makes sense why they couldn't identify her right away, which is just beyond heartbreaking to think about. And it took until September 17th for them to publicly name her as the victim. And what's interesting, but not totally shocking, this is celebrity territory, I guess, but TMZ has played a pretty significant role in the reporting on this case, and they say that they may have been the ones to help make the identification. They say that they got a tip about Celeste being the victim, and then, long story short, TMZ got in contact with her mom, and she was able to provide them with some details that they then passed on to police, and then right after that, they identified Celeste as the victim. Before that identification, though, the only thing that the media had reported was that unidentified remains were found in the front of this singer's car, and his name is David. And at that time, he was actually on tour for his debut album, which is called Withered. And a spokesperson on his team shared that he had been informed and was cooperating with the authorities. However, since the announcement on September 9th, the police have not confirmed if he is still cooperating. We do know that he's retained a very high-profile attorney, Blair Burke, who's actually Harvey Weinstein's lawyer, and that he is still yet to comment on any of this publicly. And what's interesting is before her remains were publicly identified, most of his fans stood by his side, which sadly isn't shocking in today's world of fan culture. But after the police did announce the victim was Celeste, that's when everything blew up. But before we go any further, let's backtrack for a minute here, because I want to talk about Celeste and tell you more about her. And unfortunately, right now, at this point in time, there isn't that much available about who she was. But what I can tell you about her, though, is that she was from Lake Elsinore, California, about 75 miles southeast of Hollywood, and that she was attending Lakeland Village Middle School, and she had one brother and one sister. Now, her parents haven't been too public about all of this, but according to her brother Matthew, they were heartbroken to learn that their daughter was the one whose remains were discovered. Celeste was a daughter, a sister, a cousin, a friend, And she has been described as studious, a very hard worker, intelligent, and incredibly sweet. And what makes this case just beyond upsetting and disturbing is the fact that she was only 14 years old. And if you believe what people are saying online, which it's hard not to, that would mean that Celeste was being groomed as young as 11 or 12 years old. And what's also just wild is when her remains were found, she had been listed as a missing person for a year and a half. On April 5th, 2024, Celeste was reported missing, and it's been confirmed that she was a runaway. And according to investigators, this was the third time it happened. And all three times that she was reported missing were in 2024. The first was on Valentine's Day, the second was on March 19th, and then again on April 5th. And according to her brother, when Celeste went missing in April 5th, 2024, she was on her way to see a movie with her boyfriend, David, but she never returned. And her mom also said that she was aware that her daughter had a boyfriend named David. And mind you, in April of 2024, she would have been 13. So at its core, the entire internet has been trying to figure out three things. One, if that person that Celeste was dating, which feels weird to even say, was David, as in David, the singer David Burke, if that's who she was with when she had run away, and lastly, if he had anything to do with her death. And in the first month of this case, a lot of the connections found between them were purely just speculation, and a lot of it still technically is, but in the last couple of weeks, we've actually gotten a lot more confirmation on what was going on in Celeste's life that points to there being some truth to some of these rumors. For example, even though early reporting stated that April of 2024 was the last time that her family saw her, that may not be true. On June 1st of 2024, someone who has been described as either a cousin or a family friend or something like that posted to their TikTok a video of what looks like a family gathering. And in that video, Celeste can be seen entering the frame, giving someone a hug, and she stands there talking to a woman and a man. And I'm not 100% sure on who they are, but either way, this was a sighting of her after she was reported missing. And then more recently, a Nest camera video was shared by neighbors, which reportedly shows Celeste arguing outside of their home in September of 2024. I guess someone had pulled a prank on her house, and in the video, she can be seen yelling at these neighbors.
Let me talk real quick, okay? You gonna let me talk? I ain't gonna let you talk. No, you ain't gonna let me talk. Why you not gonna let me talk? You tripping. I ain't tripping. Nah, you tripping. Out the door and you tripping.
Oh my god.
Nah, because you tripping. Move the out of here.
I ain't gonna do shit. I ain't gonna do shit. You better get over there. Get your over there, little girl.
So this tells us that she was seen by family after she ran away. Now, why did she run away? Well, many people have speculated that she had a troubled life at home. And for a while, this was just a rumor. However, her ex-boyfriend, a kid named Damien, gave an exclusive interview to TMZ where he seemed to confirm a lot of what people were saying.
So at what point did you feel or did you hear from Celeste that there were problems at home?
She said how her mom didn't treat her well or whatever, and she didn't like where she was at.
Did she talk at all about her relationship with her parents?
Kind of. She just said they were mean or whatever. She didn't like them.
What is your last memory that you have of Celeste?
We were at PE, and she told me and my friend that she was running away. And she said it was because of her parents, and she was like joking about it, and she was like happy, like joking like she always was. And like it didn't seem real because like she was like playing around, joking about it. And the next day, she wasn't at school. And like that's the last time I saw her.
Obviously, his interpretation of her home life isn't a complete picture, but his knowledge did come directly from Celeste herself. So at this point, a lot of people believe these rumors are true. And his interview also helped to confirm her alleged relationship with David, and maybe it's not as alleged as people thought.
And then you guys broke up, and the next thing you know, you find out that she's involved with this internet sensation, David.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to happen. like, at all, because, like, she was always, like, so happy and stuff.
What was your reaction when you saw the breaking news that they had found your ex-girlfriend's body in the trunk of his car?
My heart dropped. I was like, I don't know. I just couldn't believe it. I kind of had a feeling when I saw, like, the first thing. I was like, what if it is her? But I just, like, brushed it off. But when I saw it really was her, I was like, damn, I really knew.
So let me just make sure I'm understanding this correctly. You had seen the news out of Los Angeles that a body was found in his car.
Yeah.
And you immediately had a sinister thought about Celeste?
Yeah, because one of my friends told me.
And Damien wasn't the only person to give us some insight into that. News Nation correspondents also spoke with some students at her school, and one student said that Celeste had shown her and a few others pictures of herself with David, and Celeste allegedly told them that they were in a relationship. However, of course, all of this is just circumstantial evidence, and what's been really challenging is that we don't know how much or how little investigators have in terms of physical evidence. We don't even know if they know how long Celeste was alive after she ran away. There has been a lot of talk online about when her last communication with anyone was, and I definitely can't say anything for certain, but the general sort of consensus, although completely unconfirmed at this point, is that around July or August of 2025 is when people in her life stopped hearing from her. And the reality is, at this point in time, the medical examiner's office hasn't even determined when or how she died. At least not that we know of. In the autopsy report, her cause of death was listed as deferred, which means they still need to do additional testing. They also left the space for manner of death blank, meaning they haven't technically determined if this was a homicide. Now, some sources have incorrectly called it a homicide investigation, but as of today, October 10th, LAPD is characterizing it as a death investigation. According to that same late September news release, quote, the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner has not yet determined the cause or manner of Ms. Rivas Hernandez's death. As such, it remains unclear whether there is any criminal culpability beyond the concealment of her body. For example, they need to rule out things like an overdose before they can call this a homicide. And I am very confident that they are investigating the possibility of this being a homicide, though. Certainly looks that way. In fact, on September 25th, when Police Chief Jim McDonnell was asked about the rumors regarding David and Celeste's alleged relationship, he said, quote, whenever you investigate a homicide, the detectives look at all of the associated issues as well. That's something that they would be looking at. So he literally said investigating a homicide. I'm pretty sure that was a slip up. He probably wasn't supposed to say that at this point, but it's definitely worth noting. I also want to point out that on September 23rd, her remains were released back to her family, and so that means they have completed all of the testing they needed to do. So I believe at this point in time, they're still just waiting on toxicology results, which was rumored to take a few weeks, although it's definitely already been a few weeks. So naturally, people are starting to wonder what's going on, what's taking so long, what's the holdup, why hasn't an arrest been made? And there's just a lot of speculation going on around that. During this waiting period, though, they have managed to put a huge rumor to rest. Celeste's death certificate was released, and it confirmed that she was not pregnant, nor had she been in the last year, which has definitely been a huge topic of conversation when it came to the alleged motive in her death. So I'm curious to see how that will change things, and I'm also really curious to see how much information the police are going to release moving forward. Is it going to be even less? Are we going to start getting more information soon? I'm not sure, because it has definitely been frustrating not having answers quickly, especially with the rumor mill moving at such a quick pace. But I have to remain hopeful that they are being quiet for a reason. I think we're all on the same page here that at the end of the day, for the sake of Celeste, all we want is for whoever was involved in her death to never, ever see the light of day again. And a lot of people believe that that person is David. And I know we haven't gone into a ton of information about why people think that. And I think I can say this. In my personal opinion, allegedly, I believe that person is David. I do need to say, however, that he has not been named a person of interest or a suspect in this case. I need to be super clear there. And again, he is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. He is the focus of all this attention, though, so let me give you some background on him because I'm sure a lot of you are curious about who the hell David even is. So, David Anthony Burke. He was born March 28th, 2005 in Queens, New York. However, it was Houston, Texas, where he was raised alongside his brother and sister. Although he likes to say that the internet is where he's from. Super cool and edgy. He was homeschooled after 7th grade, and he was raised in a pretty sheltered religious household. And because of this, he found his community online. And it all started on Fortnite because, like so many young people these days, David had a dream to eventually become a popular streamer. And like a lot of gamers, he was posting clips of his gameplay to YouTube. And when his videos started becoming demonetized due to copyright claims for the music he was using, his mom just encouraged him to make his own. So he started out by making songs on his iPhone in his sister's closet, and it just sort of unexpectedly took off. Now, in addition to making this pretty popular copyright-free music for his Fortnite montages, he was also blowing up on TikTok for another reason. If you've spent time on TikTok, especially, I guess, a couple years ago, like more around the pandemic times, there was a lot of, and it's still used today, but there was a lot more audio back then that was sped up to sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks or something, you know, that kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's been done forever in all types of music. It's not just new to TikTok, but that was really popular on TikTok. And when David started his TikTok career, he got really popular for making that audio. This went on for a few months, and then he started just releasing his own music. And personally, I had no idea who David was, and I thought I didn't know any of his music until I heard the song Here With Me, which I hear on TikTok, or maybe did hear. I don't know if I've heard it recently. I'm sure people aren't using it as much. But the song Here With Me, it kind of goes, I don't care how long it takes. Long as I'm with you, I've got a smile on my face. I don't know. Sorry. I am not a singer. There's a reason I am not viral on TikTok. But yeah, that is the one song that really stuck out to me. And once I realized that was David, I was like, oh my God, I hear that all the time. And then also, I had never heard this song, but the song Romantic Homicide, he was also really known for. Both of those songs went viral in 2022. And that was the year that he was signed to Interscope Records. And David got famous really fast, so much so that he ended up opening for SZA on her tour in October of 2023. And most recently, he performed at Coachella in 2025. You might remember this extremely embarrassing clip of him that went absolutely viral from Coachella because he tried to do a backflip. Didn't work out so well. He's also been linked to the girl group Cat's Eye. He's recorded interviews with Benny Blanco. And he's even been pictured at events with Billie Eilish. And in March of 2025, he released his debut album, Withered, which he had been on tour performing as of August 5th, as I mentioned earlier. However, that tour was canceled after they announced the remains belonged to Celeste, which certainly does not seem like a coincidence. And his rise to fame happened when he was really young. I mean, he's still really young. All of this was happening when he was about 16 to 18 years old, and right now, he's only 20. And he's very Gen Z, Gen Alpha coded, so don't feel bad if you're like me and you had never heard of him before any of this. Honestly, I wish I never did. Anyway, now you have a better idea of who he is. I could spend a lot more time on this. It just seems like a waste of time to me. So let's jump back into the timeline here. So on September 17th, like I mentioned earlier, Celeste's remains were identified. That was also the night that LAPD executed a search warrant at the property where we now know David was living. It was located on Doheny Place in the Hollywood Hills neighborhood, which I should mention is only about 150 feet away from where his Tesla and her remains were found. And sources say that his property was being rented by his manager, Josh Marshall, for approximately $20,000 a month. Although since this has happened, that lease was abruptly broken. And shortly after her remains were identified, movers could be seen taking things out of the home, and even masked people, which we presume are members of David's team, and they were seen removing stuff from inside. And at first, the police wouldn't say whether the search was related to Celeste's death, but the internet obviously was quick to connect the house back to David. Not only were people pulling up old photos and videos of him inside of his house and then comparing them with photos on Zillow to the house where the raid happened, but neighbors also said that they remembered seeing that same Tesla, the one with the Texas license plates, parked at that house before all this went down. And as we know, David was from Texas. And investigators did not leave the property empty-handed. After a 12-hour search, they left the property with a variety of items, including computers and other electronics. Of course, we don't yet know if those items point to a crime happening inside of the home or if anything they found connects David to Celeste. However, we do know that they were using luminol and pulling drains apart to look for blood evidence. Also, there are 2 security cameras outside the house, but it hasn't been said yet if anything was captured on them. The homeowner said that when new tenants move in, he gives them the info to the security company and they are able to create their own accounts to access the cameras. But yeah, TBD on if they actually did that or not. What's going to be huge, in my opinion, is the fact that this neighborhood is littered with cameras. We're talking about the Hollywood Hills here, people. Most of the houses have security systems in place. So if his house's cameras didn't pick anything up, I have, I guess, some degree of delusional confidence that another house's did. And let's also not forget that her body being found in a Tesla of all cars is possibly, I'm even going to say probably, going to give us a ton of evidence because Teslas store so much data. I mean, they're like giant computers. And what I am personally hoping is that the car had Sentry mode turned on. This is a security feature that uses the Tesla's 8 external cameras to monitor its surroundings when the car is parked and locked. It can detect motion when someone gets too close and it'll start recording video. But even if that wasn't turned on, we will still get other important info. Assuming the memory stick isn't wiped, investigators will be able to retrieve data such as when the car was moved, where the car was moved from, if there was more than one passenger, and even when that frunk was opened. This data, if they're able to retrieve it, and they should be, will play a huge role in establishing a timeline and could also just flat out tell us who put her body in the frunk. Plus, we can't forget about the Tesla key, which if you didn't know, Teslas have a physical key card. It kind of looks like a credit card, but there's also a key attached to their app. So if someone used the app to access the car when moving her body, investigators will likely be able to figure out whose phone that activity came from. Now, there was someone on Reddit who claimed to have found a Tesla car key hidden in the gutter, basically outside of David's house. And it picked up some traction online for sure, but there is no confirmation that this was his key, so I'm just going to leave it at that. But yeah, whether that part is true or not, the data won't lie and it's going to be critical. And this might be obvious, but David being famous could really help a lot here. Like I said, there were a lot of people who defended David when this first broke before we knew who the victim was or any other information. And part of that, I think, is because it's hard for people to accept that maybe their favorite artist or someone they look up to could be potentially involved in something as horrific as this. But another huge reason for that is because when the news first broke, people thought there was no way he could be connected because he was on tour at that time. But once we learned that Celeste was deceased for several weeks, people have speculated that it's possible she was put in the frunk before his tour began. Of course, we can't say anything for certain without that data being released, but I also think that is highly possible. And I'm sure they're also looking at the possibility that maybe someone else had access to his car, which has obviously been a big talking point. People have speculated that maybe someone else could have used his car and that the whole thing just happened to fall on him. But what's interesting is the car was never reported as lost or stolen, meaning that if David didn't do it, whoever put her remains in there is most likely, but not definitely, in his inner circle at least. Here is Jason Lewis, one of the top digital forensic experts, explaining more about the Tesla's data, much better than I can explain.
Effectively, what do you expect this particular data in this Tesla might tell us about who was on the outside of the car, getting into the driver's seat, driving it to the abandoned location, and maybe opening that trunk and closing it for the last time? What will we know about that?
Well, it's all going to depend on if Sentry mode was turned on. Because if Sentry mode was actually activated on the vehicle, then it's doing a lot of recording of video footage from its 8 external cameras. And so if that was the case, then you'd actually have clips of the people opening the door, a clip of someone opening the trunk, and that could possibly be recovered by the police. Now, if Sentry mode's not turned on, then it's not going to be doing any of those recordings. And what you'll get is recordings when the vehicle's in motion versus when it's stationary.
So this vehicle was in motion, presumably with Celeste's body in it, because it was abandoned. Do you think there'll be data that's retrievable about where it drove from before it ended up in its final resting spot in the abandoned street side prior to being towed? And will it register when that trunk closed for the last time?
Yes, it should. It's all a matter of whether or not that data is still on the car or if it's on the Tesla servers. So your vehicle actually communicates with the Tesla servers almost constantly, and it's usually doing that over a cellular connection, but it can also do it over Wi-Fi. So it's sending a treasure trove of information back to the Tesla servers. And so as long as the information is still either on that server or the car, then you can get a lot of information such as when were the doors open, when was the trunk opened, and then as long as the memory stick that records all the videos hasn't been removed from the vehicle, because that is the only thing that a individual that owns the vehicle can actually do to wipe data effectively and quickly, is to pull the memory stick. And if you do that, that's where all the video recordings are stored for the Sentry mode.
Now, as for the David got help theory, that's definitely been a topic of conversation, and it is possible. There's specifically been a lot of talk around his manager. People have started speculating and just outright accusing Josh Marshall of not only hiding their alleged relationship, but having something to do with Celeste's death. But I want to be clear here, he has publicly denied those accusations. Basically, there's this PI, Steve Fisher, who came out and said that he obtained an old email from 2024. Now, in this alleged email, a concerned adult in Celeste's life was reaching out to Josh to tell him they thought Celeste might be with David and they were worried about her. And when people heard about this, they speculated that Josh warned David and Celeste that the cops might be looking for her, because the day after this email was allegedly sent, Celeste went back home. However, when a few TikTokers were making these accusations, Josh clapped back in the comments saying he had zero knowledge of anything and never received this so-called email. He said in part, "This video is false and the person is misinformed. This is the only time I'll speak on this matter. For now, I received no emails and I'm no one's roommate. I live full-time at home with my wife and kids. I never received any emails. I had zero knowledge of anything and I don't live in California. Also, I work remotely 95% of the time and my job doesn't require me to have much interaction with any of my clients / David, as there are many others that work with him on a day-to-day capacity, not me. I hope the proper authorities get to the bottom of it soon." Despite denying ever seeing it though, Steve Fisher says the email is very much real and that it's been sent to the police. So the question is, if it was real, was it ever received? And right now, we just don't know the answer. And because there is so much we don't know, people online have really been latching on to whatever these internet sleuths from YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, wherever are saying, especially when it comes to David. And by the way, when it comes to David, people have been distancing themselves from him left and right, understandably so. He was dropped from upcoming campaigns with brands like Crocs, Hollister, Fortnite. Celebrities are unfollowing him on social media. The singer Caliucci even pulled her song with him from streaming platforms and publicly denounced having any kind of friendship with David. Plus, his record label has pulled the release of the deluxe version of his album, which was supposed to be published on September 19th. That did not happen. And the internet is very convinced that he not only has something to do with her death, but that he had been grooming and illegally dating her. And I hate even calling it dating. I hate seeing it referred to as dating all the time. She was a minor. If it ends up being true, they were not boyfriend and girlfriend. She was a victim. He is a predator. Now that brings me to the part of the episode where I want to get more into what these internet sleuths are finding, what they have found, and why people are so convinced of his guilt, because a lot of it is very compelling. I do need to mention that this is where things get dicey. A lot of the things that I'm sharing, I have done my absolute best to find the original source of the information. Not always possible. And with the internet, there is always the possibility of doctored evidence, especially we are in the era of AI. It's insane. I feel like I cannot believe anything I see anymore. So please take that into consideration as I go through all of this. So essentially what people have done is they've dug through his whole life and her whole life, and they have found things connecting the two of them. And if all of these connections are true, it means they can be linked back as far as 2022. And actually, some people speculate that they could have met as far back as 2021 on Fortnite when she was just 11 years old. However, I need to be abundantly clear here that police have not confirmed a sexual relationship between the two of them. Police Captain Scott Williams said, quote, "As far as their relationship, it would be premature for me to say anything. We are looking into everything." That being said, though, most people believe that they were romantically involved, which is so disturbing. And people in Celeste's life and even some of David's friends have just straight up said that the two of them were together, period. There was also a neighbor who reportedly saw them together, quote, all the time. And according to TMZ, who spoke with these friends, they thought that Celeste was a 19-year-old college student at USC.
How did they know him and how well did they know him?
Yeah, so the folks that I spoke to are in the LA music scene. So they know David very, very well. They didn't know Celeste as well as they knew David, but they did notice that he was bringing her along when they would go to parties in the music scene. Maybe they would have hangouts after a recording session.
Did they get the impression that this was a romantic couple?
Yes, absolutely. So the people that I spoke to that were seeing them together out in the scene believed they were romantically involved. Now, look, they did not say anything about PDA, said that David was a very shy, quiet person, and Celeste seemed to mirror that as well. So they weren't out there making out at parties and things like that, but they did believe because they would see them together so frequently that these two were in a relationship.
And why did they think that? Well, according to TMZ, Celeste had, quote, multiple fake IDs in an attempt to present much older than she was. And listen, if that's what she was doing, that's what she was doing. But I don't buy for 1 second that anyone could look at this child and mistake her for an 18-year-old. These friends of David did say that they saw her at 18-plus age-restricted events, so they just sort of believed she had to have been older. But I just do not buy that David wasn't aware of her age. If they knew each other, Celeste was a child, and she didn't have the knowledge or capability, really, to know right from wrong. Also, David was older, rich, and famous, and those are power dynamics that we just absolutely cannot ignore. And then we've got to talk about the tattoo, which has been another big point of conversation, and it's very creepy. This one's easy to prove. So we know that Celeste had a tattoo that said on her right index finger. And this is the same tattoo that David had on his right index finger. However, gotta say, this is not a super unique tattoo. Rihanna popularized it in 2009, and then other celebrities like Lindsay Lohan also have it. That being said, many people speculate that this tattoo was something that they had for each other. Certainly seems that way, right? And when you think about the deeper meaning here, on this finger specifically, it's really, really creepy. A lot of people think that David knew that his relationship with Celeste was wrong and that he was taking steps to hide it from the public. So kind of feels like a weird nod to this big secret that he's keeping. Now, her family has confirmed that she did have this tattoo. In fact, when TMZ spoke to her mom before her identity was released, she was the one that told them that Celeste had this tattoo in red ink on her finger. And we can't forget that her mom also said that Celeste was dating someone named David, although she said that she never met him, only heard of him. And this has sparked a ton of online criticism, in my opinion, warranted. People are really upset that they let their child date someone, anyone, so freely, let alone someone older. I don't know if they knew how old he was or what, but to me, I hate to judge people that are going through a time like this, but I don't understand letting your child date someone that you haven't even met. Just being like, I know of someone she's dating. I know she's dating a guy named David, but I never met him. That's shocking to me. Some people also speculate, and this is purely speculation, that they know more than they are letting on. A lot of people are angry that Celeste seemingly had no parental supervision. And there are even comments from people online who say that they are from the same area and that her family knew that she was with David. Some of these people even said that they knew since she was age 11 and that they didn't care. Again, that's just coming from random people on the internet, so who knows? And I have also seen people report that her family has denied these accusations, although I'm not sure exactly where they're getting this information from. I have not seen any type of denial of accusations from them. And apparently someone had created a fake Instagram account pretending it was Celeste, and then they also pretended to be her sister taking over that account. And that account said that their family denied knowing about David. However, like I said, people are now saying this was a fake, don't know. And this is why I always have so much trouble with these types of cases and sometimes just stay away from them altogether, because there's always going to be these people, especially when cases are this popular, but just weirdos out there that get something out of tricking the public, and it's just hard to tell the difference. When it comes to Celeste's brother, though, people believe he knew, and it's also believed that we have proof that he knew. But of course, please take this with a grain of salt, because it's certainly not proof. But there is this Instagram account that allegedly belongs to Matthew, her brother, and there's this DM conversation that was leaked. And if it is real, it would point to their family knowing a lot more. So someone DMs this account saying, "Dude, why does David follow you? All respect to your sister. I hate how shitty people are being. Was it really him? Jesus, all love, man." To which this account, allegedly belonging to Matthew, responds, "Yes, it was him, because he found my account out of nowhere and followed me." The original sender then says, "Fuck, well, he has it coming. That's wild, just randomly. Did you ever even talk to him?" And the response reads, "I met him once in person." Then the sender says, "Did you and your family know of your sister being with him? Like, was she living with him?" All of this shit is so confusing and disgusting. To which he says, "I knew and I went to the police about it, but lack of evidence, so it was waved off." Then they talk back and forth a little bit more, and then the sender says, "What do you think happened? Like, he just didn't want her to expose him being with her?" And allegedly her brother responded, "I don't know." The sender then says, "Damn, was your sister like in love with him and choosing to stay? I'm guessing it was all him just manipulating her." And then the response was, "Yeah, she was always saying that he was waiting till she was 18 to get married and stuff like that." And then it keeps going on for a little. The sender mentions some evidence that the brother, if it is him, claims he didn't know about but wishes he did. And the reason people believe that this could really be Matthew is because he sends some photos of Celeste that look like they'd come from someone who knew her. So that conversation also brings up another piece of potential evidence, and it's confusing, so stick with me. And it's also very disturbing, so keep that in mind before you go forward. So in this DM conversation, the one we just went over, the sender shared a screenshot of another DM conversation. And this conversation is allegedly between Celeste and one of her friends. I'll read through that conversation in a second here. And again, I cannot warn enough. It is so disturbing. But basically, the person DMing her alleged brother wanted to know if this other conversation was real. And he says that it is. So it starts with allegedly Celeste saying, "It can bleed in, not bleed during sex because you prob did it when you were younger." And then she says, "I didn't because I wasn't horny." The friend responded, "You said bled." What? Then allegedly Celeste replies, "I thought I did. I just got my period. I only bled with David." To which her friend said, She then responds, "With Gus, I was just drunk and did it because he got mad at me the first time for not having sex with him." Then there's another screenshot between the two of them where the friend starts by saying, "I'm just going to check up on you." And allegedly Celeste says, "I don't want to talk to anyone." The friend says, "That's it." And she responded, "Okay, yes, of course." Her friend then goes, "But you have to swear you're going to stay safe. Are you still going to talk to David or go back with him, because I don't want you to get in any more trouble with him?" Then Celeste, if it is her, said, "I'm safe," as well as, "No, I'm not." Lastly, the friend responded, "Okay, I love you. I'll text you in about a week. Don't delete Insta." And Celeste allegedly says, "I love you too, and I won't." Now, if this was real, it obviously suggests that Celeste and David were intimate. As far as who this Gus person is, my understanding is he was someone that Celeste was allegedly also dating. But apparently he was shot a few years ago and died, but that's not related to any of this. And of course, there is tons of speculation on Gus too, and how David was super pissed at Celeste for being with someone else. And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole today, but just know it exists. All of that to say, if this Instagram stuff is legitimate, it suggests that someone in her family was well aware of who her boyfriend David really was. And people have also debated just how hard they looked for her when she went missing, and they have also questioned why the police didn't do anything either. And what's shocking is apparently the police knew where she was, because it's been reported that they had actually brought her home from Hollywood one of the times that she ran away. And that information comes from this resurfaced video of Celeste's old teacher.
That's her in my classroom in front of this poster right here. Okay, hold up. I got another one because I got a picture on TMZ of this other kid exchanging stuff with the rapper who we alleged did this stuff. Hold on a second, because he's also in my classroom.
Wait, how long ago was this?
We all just found out yesterday who it was, but she's been missing since I taught her. So when I taught her, she met this dude on social media. He was a rapper in LA. He came and got her. She ran away from home. She was gone for like a month. The cops found her in Hollywood, brought her back to our school. She came back to our school, kind of told people this story. She disappeared again in May of that year, May of 2024. That's when her friends told me what happened, that it was this rapper. And then I found out yesterday that she's now dead in that rapper's car, cut into pieces. You want to know how they met? I feel like I just said it. Social media.
And I'm sure you can probably guess that this video has been super controversial because people feel like he was just really out of touch and insensitive in the way that he was talking about what happened. Although he has come out and said that he was just trying to be real with the students, to talk with them about the dangers of social media. The point, though, is that he was very clear about Celeste being brought home from Hollywood and that she was with this rapper. So for a while, people questioned why nobody did more to bring her back. However, new evidence has surfaced that efforts were taken by her family after she ran away.
We spoke to the owner of a liquor store that is on the block, same block in Lake Elsinore where Celeste and her family lived. And he told us he was very familiar with the kids in the neighborhood because the school bus stopped right in front of his liquor store every day, and kids would come in, not for liquor, but come in to buy soda and candy and things like that. And he said that back in March of 2024, at a point when Celeste was missing, her sister came into the store and asked the liquor store owner, hey, have you seen her? Do your security cameras perhaps have any footage of her? He told us that he went back at the sister's request and he did look. And on March 19th, 2024, he did see her in front of the store, go across the street and then down the street a bit and get into someone's car. He said by the time she got in the car, it was out of focus of his security camera, so he couldn't tell what kind of car it was or who else was in the car, but he did see her. What's interesting about that is that it's the first time that we've had a report of a family member actively doing something, searching for her. We know that she went missing several times early in 2024, between January and April. But we were always curious. We talked about it a few days ago, like, why wasn't the family doing more to try to find her?
Plus, according to LA Times, her brother said that they did everything they could to bring her home, including putting up flyers, posting on social media, and physically searching for her. Neighbors have even confirmed that they remember her family going around town in the summer of 2024, asking people if they had seen Celeste. Also, records obtained in early October by TMZ indicate Riverside County deputies went over to her house at least 11 times between February of 2024 and April of 2025. However, the police haven't said a word about any of this publicly, and my understanding is that all of these visits had to do with Celeste running away. And I say that because the dates of some of these visits line up with the 3 times that her family called and reported her missing. For example, 3 visits took place on March 19th, which is one of the days we know she ran off. 2 times were the police going to her house, and 1 was them going to the actual liquor store. And according to reporting by the LA Times, a friend of Celeste's mom, Ruby Alonzo, claims that another one of these 11 times was when Celeste was being brought home in a patrol car. Ruby has also shared that when Celeste ran away in February, she left a letter for her family, although it's unknown what was in that letter. And she also said that when when she returned, Celeste was upset about the social media posts and publicity her disappearance had generated. And listen, when it comes to the family stuff, I won't lie, I have a lot of thoughts. I think there's a lot we don't know and a lot we may never know. And this is really another area where I could spend probably a whole hour just picking apart these theories and sharing my thoughts. But until we know more, it seems irresponsible and not helpful. So I'm going to leave it there. I will say two things, though. One, it seems like a very difficult and complicated home situation, and my heart goes out to Celeste for that. And two, if, big if here, if they knew that David, if they knew who he was, if they knew how old he was, and allowed her to be with him, that is a crime, and there should be consequences for that. All right, so the next theory discovery has to do with the allegation that David may have been paying people to keep quiet, which stems from a photo that resurfaced on Reddit of David in a parking lot with some other teenagers. And he's kind of standing there while this other dude holds a brown paper bag. And some people believe that this was David paying someone off. People have also pointed out that this photo was taken in a parking lot in Lake Elsinore, which is only a few minutes down the street from Celeste's house, which people understandably have a hard time believing was a coincidence. And the Reddit thread where this appeared has also become a huge talking point, so just listen to this. So after the police announced that unidentified remains were found in David's car, obviously Reddit just absolutely lit up. And one user, Alpha Tango Cheesecake, said this guy is a pedophile from what I've heard. My sister, who is now in 9th grade, told me that he was dating an 8th grader. Let's call her C. And she would go on trips with him to LA. They're all in 9th grade now, and it turns out that C's friends knew. And he would pay them to keep their mouth shut. C has been missing for over a month now, and no one knows her whereabouts. Definitely something strange going on. Mind you, this comment was published before Celeste's name went public, which is why a ton of people are convinced that this Reddit user is telling the truth and that they're talking about Celeste. They go on to say that they were getting this information from their sister, who went to the school that Celeste should have been going to. And his sister said that whoever was being paid isn't talking about it anymore, likely because they're talking to the police. Then when they're asked if David is still paying people to keep quiet, the user says, "Sorry for the late response. I'm sure the police have been involved, but I don't know the full details of C's life. It seemed to me that she has had a broken home life/family life because the way my sister put it, she would never be home and always be out. Seems like the parent relationship wasn't there, and I'm not sure if he's still paying or not. I can ask my sister and get back to you." Edit, I asked my sister and she said she isn't sure. But I saw a news article of the picture of the girl and my sister confirmed that it is indeed C. They also point to when people potentially lost contact with C. They said she was missing for that long officially, but she still had friends who were in contact with her. Again, I'm not sure what her family life was like. It seemed very broken to me, which makes me believe that she didn't want to go back home. What I meant was my sister and her friends lost all contact with her for over a month. Since early or mid-August, I'm not too sure. And people are saying if this is true, emphasis on if there, and Celeste lost contact with people in early August, this was right around the time that David went on tour. Remember, the tour started August 5th, and technically a few days before, since he added more shows. However, people have pointed out that he wasn't completely on the road when his tour began. Here's a great clip of Ashley Banfield describing this.
Judging by the concert poster, David's Withered tour in support of his debut album kicked off August 5th in Del Mar, California, on the outskirts of San Diego. And as jam-packed as the list looks, it is not even a complete list because several shows were added, both before the official kickoff and before the remaining dates were scrapped a week ago tonight. So on paper, it looks almost impossible for David to have been involved in whatever it was that happened to Celeste. On paper. But in reality, not so much. We did find some holes in David's schedule, windows where he could have traveled back to Los Angeles. But that really raises the question of how David's entourage was traveling, or at least how David himself was traveling. The tour was laid out in geographical order, and that's the way that you would see it if you were hitting cities, say, in a tour bus. But nowhere in the articles or the posts is there any mention of a bus. The only transportation ever shown or referenced is an airplane, and sometimes a private plane, which opens up a lot of possibilities. But there is still the question of time, right? So to figure that out, we cross-checked a couple of key resources. Concertarchives.org tracks every show by every artist that you can name, often including videos and photos and even set lists. And we also looked at David's personal tour diary. He has an Instagram account just for his concerts and his travels. It's called David Tour. And what did we find? Back on July 30th, David played a show at the Warfield Theater in San Francisco. It wasn't an official tour date, and it wasn't even on his schedule, so maybe, I don't know, could have been a tune-up show, to get ready for the tour. He had 3 days off until his next date, which was August 2nd in Del Mar, also not listed on the tour schedule. And he played there on August 2nd and had another 2 days off, then played again on August 5th, leaving plenty of time to get back and forth to Los Angeles, even if by bike. Bottom line, the dead girl's boyfriend had 13 days to himself in the month leading up to the day police found Celeste's body, which means exactly nothing if he is never named as a suspect or if he's never charged.
Like she said, though, it means nothing if he's not connected. But Reddit, of course, definitely seems to believe he is. Another user, American Strawberry, also had a super eerie post that I just couldn't leave out. On September 8th, they said, "This guy is a weirdo. A close friend's little sister from the LE ran away last year, and this is who she was with. We think her sister was pimping her out. She was in 7th grade at the time. LAPD sweeped his place in the hills. I'm terrified that's who is in the car. Nobody has heard from her in months. I won't release names since she is still a minor, but she was from Lake Elsinore." And once again, this was before anyone knew that the body belonged to Celeste. Hence why people think this post could be true. Now, speaking of Reddit, people are also accusing David of deleting posts in his own subreddit. He was the only moderator, and around September 22nd, people noticed that posts criticizing him were starting to disappear. And then he left the group, which means no new posts can be added. He also turned off the comments on his TikTok. But of course, neither of these things have stopped people from talking. And I'd say Reddit and TikTok are definitely where the most conversation and sleuthing has gone on, and also where a bunch of photos have come to light. Now, when it comes to the alleged photos of David and Celeste, there's one common theme. David can be seen with a girl, but the girl is always covering her face. Hence why it's hard to say for sure if this girl is actually Celeste. But most of them look a lot like her, and some of them date back to 2023. People have posted screenshots from video streams, alleged FaceTime calls between the two of them, even Spotify playlists that they allegedly collaborated on. This one image shows David in a live stream with a girl covering her face behind him, and someone commented, "Hey, who's this girl?" To which David replied, "You are a fed." Now, you tell me why on earth someone would call someone else a fed for asking about a girl unless that girl was underage. Unless that's some trend of Gen Z, Gen Alpha that I just don't know about, which is also possible. But there's also photos that appear to have been screenshotted from his own Instagram story. And if these are real, I mean, yeah, the girl looks a lot like Celeste. And her dark curly hair is definitely the biggest distinguishing feature that people have pointed to in order to make that connection. And there's actually one photo taken directly from David's Instagram where you can see a girl just behind him. And people seem to be convinced that this is her, although that girl noticeably has some red in her hair. However, that is a whole other rabbit hole we're not going down today. Also, I'm not going to post them, but you should just know that there are a handful of photos going around circulating the internet that look super real of the two of them together. But a lot of things in this case have already been AI generated. So if anything looks too real, if you know what I mean, just know it's likely one of those fake photos. So there is one video that people have paid special attention to, and it's from January of 2024. It's another live stream of David, and he's with a girl who looks a hell of a lot like Celeste. There's only a brief clip of it, but we see them together, and they're responding to comments in chat, and you hear the girl say that they, quote, need to delete this, and David asked the mods to delete the whole stream. Then David reads a comment that says, "Nah, you going on the Epstein list." And he starts freaking out. Then it cuts to another part where this young girl makes a very eerie comment about R-wording kids. Take a look.
Pray for his career, chat. Are we done? Are we?
We need to delete this.
Are we? Maz, can we delete all VODs? And then as soon as the stream ends, delete the stream too? Can we delete anything? You done for, bro? Y'all are not done? Now you gonna Epstein? Yo, wait.
Oh, look at answer that one. That's so mean if you don't answer
Which
that.
one? What's good, David? Big fan, mixed by me. Bro, thank you, Mitochondria. Appreciate you.
I gotta sound with him if you even.
I media trained you.
No, you didn't.
That's controversial.
It's controversial of kids.
Really good.
Okay,
it's been a good one. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Mwah. Oh my! Delete everything. Delete everything. Everything goes.
Now, police have not confirmed who this girl is, but people seem to think that it's her. People also found this video of a girl backstage at one of his concerts in June of 2024. The girl is wearing pink sweatpants and has a black hoodie pulled over her head. She turns her head slightly to the camera, so you only catch a glimpse of her face. And although unconfirmed, some suspect it's Celeste. People have gone as far as pointing out that David can be seen wearing bracelets that look similar to the ones that she used to wear. He also posted a TikTok about washing people's shoes as a side hustle, and people noticed that a pair of Jordans he washes are identical to a pair that she owned. There's even a pair of Hello Kitty shoes, which brings up another important discovery in this case. So I learned that Celeste was super into Hello Kitty. And apparently David was too. And obviously, liking Hello Kitty isn't a unique experience by any means. That being said, there are some really bizarre connections that people have found. For example, a photo surfaced online which allegedly came from Celeste's Instagram story, and it's someone, presumably her, holding onto a Hello Kitty keychain, which is attached to some guy's pants. You can't see either of their faces, but there's text on the screen that reads, BF's Kitty. You can also see in the image that the girl is wearing Hello Kitty Crocs, which were the same shoes Celeste was wearing when she was reported missing. And another reason why people believe that this guy is David is because he can be seen wearing that same keychain in a TikTok posted just before Valentine's Day in 2024. He captioned the video, "When TikTok removes all my music, but at least I have a Valentine this year." And again, remember, Valentine's Day 2024 was the first time Celeste was reporting as having run away. And the coincidences don't stop there. A few days later, he posted a TikTok where he makes it pretty obvious that he's dating someone. And a few of the top comments are like, "Wait, what? You're taken?" And someone replied to those comments tagging who they believed to be David's girlfriend. And the username that was tagged was 0907. And if you remember, Celeste's birthday is September 7th. 9/7. And not only that, David also tagged that same account like a month prior when responding to comments. Someone said, "Please adopt me, I need it." And David tagged 0907 and said, "Should we?" So that at least tells us that he was aware of whoever that account belonged to, right? Plus, people have noticed there are a ton of connections between David and Celeste's birthday. The music video for his song Romantic Homicide was released on her 12th birthday in 2022. And the music video for his song Rehab was posted the same day in 2023. Then on September 7th, 2025, what would have been her 15th birthday, he posted on Instagram that the deluxe version of his new album would be released, which, by the way, would feature 15 new songs. Which brings me to arguably one of the biggest coincidences, discoveries, whatever you want to call it in this case, and that is David's music. His lyrics, his music videos, and the themes that come up in his tour all point to a very disturbed person who was obsessed with murder. I don't know how else to say it. Let's start with Romantic Homicide, and that name alone just makes my skin crawl. That song was released in July of 2022, and like I said earlier, that was the song that really put him on the map. Out of respect for Celeste, I hope you guys will not go and try and stream his music. I know it's tempting to hear it. That's why I tried to sing it for you so you could get an idea earlier. Sorry about that. But yeah, I have no interest in promoting or playing his music for you, so I will not be playing any of it today. But I do need to read you some of the lyrics for you to understand. So in this song, Romantic Homicide, he says, "In the back of my mind, you died, and I didn't even cry. No, not a single tear. And I'm sick of waiting patiently for someone that won't even arrive." Then in another verse, he sings, "In the back of my mind, I killed you, and I didn't even regret it. I can't believe I said it, but it's true. I hate you." Now, were all of his songs released before Celeste died? Yes. But people believe that for the last few years, David has been dropping hints, like Easter eggs, almost like an evil version of Taylor Swift about what he was planning to do. And again, these aren't my thoughts. These are thoughts of the internet. This would be some insane premeditation, calculation. I don't know. At the very least, and this is more where I stand, people believe that he was singing about his dark fantasies of killing a girl. There's even an interview clip of him on the Zach Sang show talking about how the things he sings about are almost like manifestations about what ends up coming true.
This album is my life. Like, Withered is my life. Petals of Thorns and Lost Petals are what I wanted my life to be, and then Withered is my life.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So where do they align at all?
They do indeed, because like I said, I kind of felt like it was a prophetic thing that I was speaking about heartbreak and love and all these things I had never experienced before, but then I actually experienced them, and it's like, yo, I really said this about myself 2 years ago. It's happening.
But is it what you really expected?
It's weird because I have such a weird view and take on situations like that because I'm always looking for writing material in these types of things. So instead of taking it to the chin, being like, oh my God, like, I'm heartbroken, like, I go straight to my phone or BandLab, go straight to the studio and write about it. I never actually like fully process situations like that because I'm always expecting it to happen, and then as soon as it happens, I'm writing about it. So
you're expecting. Let's break that down.
Yeah,
because I like going immediately to art like as a means of coping.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
But you saying expecting it, meaning like you get into a friendship expecting it to end in a devastating, tragic, sad way, so it can inspire art, but are you manifesting that in a certain degree?
I don't know. I hope I'm not. I really hope I'm not, because it feels that way. Because like I look back to old songs like Life's a Dream and all these songs I wrote in my closet or my sister's closet in 2022 when I'm looking at my life in the past 8 to 9 months. And I'm like, whoa. Like, bro, these songs are soundtracking my life. So I hope I'm not involuntarily doing that, but it might be that way. Not gonna lie.
And it's not just his lyrics which people point to, which I'll get more into, but his music videos are also freaky. In Romantic Homicide, the video shows a girl with long, wavy black hair who some people say resembles Celeste, wearing a bloody white dress. And he not only sings about not feeling bad about killing her, but he can be seen standing over her body while she lays in a bed, covered in blood, surrounded by bloodied white roses, which is definitely another big theme for him. David says that the bloody rose aesthetic is representative of the idea that beautiful things can hurt you. The whole video is really dark and graphic, and people feel like the words and imagery take on a whole new meaning now. And it's not just this song that has people questioning him. In his song Notes from a Wrist, he sings, "Run away from home again. I'm carving these notes into bloody arms, alone with my soul impaled. Run away from your loving arms. Why am I so afraid? I don't care. I'm not coming home. Why am I crying if this is what I wanted all along?" In the chorus of his song Ghost, he sings, "He might have you, but I've got your ghost. And we both know that's the real you. And God knows it's true. I love you the most, but we both know what I have to do." In More Than Just Friends, he sings, "You told me we would never be more than just friends, but I don't really care. I'm gonna put it to an end. You never really cared about me. It was just pretend. I told you to keep it 10 or you'll end up dead. Oh, I didn't mean to make you feel uncomfortable. I did everything that you told me to. What's wrong with you? Pieces put together like a puzzle." I also can't forget about the song I tried to sing earlier, Here With Me, which goes, "I don't care how long it takes. As long as I'm with you, I've got a smile on my face," which people have speculated that maybe "I don't care how long it takes" is David talking about how she's a minor and doesn't care how long it takes for her to become a legal adult, that he's just happy to be with her. There's also an unreleased song called Love for Felony, and it goes, "Dark hair, brown skin, I love that melanin. Baby, if you're looking for love, I think they sellin' it. On the corner of the street, I got a felony, but I don't care about the law when I'm with you. And I know it's hard to believe that's a real song from him, but there is a video of him singing it 2 years ago.
Smiling wave when you pass me by, but I'm feeling it. Dark hair, brown skin, love that melanin. Baby, if you looking for love, I think they selling it. On the corner of the street, that I'm feeling it. But I don't care about the love when I'm with you, cause I be breaking it all the time. And I don't really need cars, no issues. Hey, I need you to know, I need you to know that life get crazy. So won't you help me slow it down? Yes, no, or maybe I take that as a yes, cause it's still around. But I'm feeling it. Dark hair, brown skin, love that melanin. Baby, if you looking for love, I think they selling it. On the corner of the street, that I'm feeling it.
Now, I could go on and on about David's music. In fact, there is a whole Reddit thread dedicated to dissecting the lyrics. If you want to hear more, you can check that out. People have literally come up with whole imagined timelines of when he and Celeste were allegedly fighting based on his songs, and then times that they were happy. And then they do the same with his TikToks and reposts and all of that stuff. So people have just gotten really into the weeds on this. Honestly, I think it's the most intense online sleuthing I've ever seen. I mean, people are obsessed. And what's equally crazy and sad, honestly, is that because of all of this, David's music is being streamed and listened to now more than ever. He's back on the charts and his downloads are in the multi-millions. But yeah, when it comes to his music, it's just impossible to deny that there's a pattern here. Now, David has said that his lyrics aren't all written from his lived experiences. He says he'll write from the perspective of friends' relationships, and he'll even sort of just make things up like many artists do. We also can't forget that lyrics aren't necessarily proof of anything, and they might not hold up in court if it came down to it. It could easily be said by a defense attorney that these are just artistic expressions, of course. Which, speaking of artistic expressions, we absolutely need to talk about David's alter ego. Itami is what it's called. And Itami is a character, this alter ego of sorts, that appears in a bunch of David's music videos. Itami means pain in Japanese, and David has explained that this character, who is always portrayed wearing a white blindfold and often in a bloody white shirt, is one of 4 characters in the David verse. He said that it was inspired by manga, which is a style of Japanese comic books, and this Itami character is the antagonist of the world that he's building. Basically, he says that he wanted to write a manga series where he, David, was a detective, and Itami is the evil version of himself who goes around committing crimes like murder, and he has to try to solve them. And the themes of Itami committing crimes that David has to solve appear in his music videos.
And I had the idea to kind of make this first music video introduce a character that I had been kind of ideating for a really long time. That's why you see him with the blindfold and the bloody shirt aesthetic and the bow tie. I'm really big into anime and I'm really big into manga. And I wanted to make my own manga series at one point, and I was writing a lot of poems and writing a lot of things for it. And a big part of that manga was an evil version of me named Itami, which means pain in Japanese. And he wears his blindfold, and he's basically an agent of chaos and kind of my alter ego. And the story of the manga went like I was a detective, and there was an evil version of myself that would kind of come out at random moments, kind of like Fight Club with Tyler Durden. And he would commit the crimes that I would have to solve as the detective. So like when I was as the detective, I'd be like solving murders that I'm committing myself.
And Itami appears everywhere. It started in Romantic Homicide, but it just keeps coming up. In the music video for his song Rehab, David shows the anime version of himself fighting Itami, who can then be seen dismembering a girl. Then in One More Dance, Itami is depicted dragging David and putting him in the trunk of a car, and then later on, his body gets buried. Same with his song Placebo Effect. David is seen being picked up and then dumped into a trunk of a black truck. I mean, you literally can't make this up. It's eerie, the connections here. Itami is also seen in his Here With Me music video, where once again, people have noticed that the girl in the video looks like Celeste. And that seems to happen a lot, by the way. Not to mention the fact that when you go to his concerts, he sets up a funeral for Itami. I mean, the dude has a casket and everything. He even sold the Itami Bloody t-shirt merch for a while, although this has since been removed from his website. Wise choice. So yeah, this dude is obsessed with death and murder. And he also has fully admitted to being obsessed with gore. You can see posts where he says, "I love gore, and I used to be addicted to watching gore vids." Oh, and there's also one more song I need to tell you about. So in December of 2023, a song titled Celeste _demo unfin, which is like unfinished, was leaked online. And since her death, the song has resurfaced. The lyrics go, "Oh Celeste, the girl with my name tattooed on her chest. Smell her on my clothes like cigarettes. I hear her voice each time I take a breath. I'm obsessed. Oh Celeste, afraid you'll only love me when undressed. But you look so damn gorgeous in that dress. Missing you so much, it makes me depressed. But I digress." Ah, God. It's just so disgusting. Every time I get to those lyrics specifically, oh my God, it's just so disturbing. Now, if this song is real, which most people believe it is, and if he is singing about Celeste Rivas Hernandez, then this is literally a love song that he wrote at 18 years old about a 13-year-old. And I make that distinction about her last name for a reason here, because people have pointed out that there were two Celestes in David's life. Celeste Rivas Hernandez, who was 14, and Celeste Herrera, who people are saying is 23. Basically, there are a few theories about this girl. One is that David had a decoy Celeste. That way he could sing and talk about a girl named Celeste and people wouldn't know it was the one who was underage. Another theory is that the younger Celeste was killed quite some time ago, and this other girl is like her replacement, I guess. People have also pointed out that they kind of look similar. But anyway, early on, when tons of photos and videos were circulating, there was a lot of confusion on which Celeste was which, because we do know for a fact that this other Celeste was known to hang out with David. So when a photo would find its way online, people would debate if it was the child Celeste versus the older Celeste. There is one video that people point to of her wearing the same style Gap jacket that the younger Celeste had. So some people thought David may have given older Celeste younger Celeste's jacket. It's all speculation, though. I do think most of this has been sorted out by now. It's pretty crazy, and I do believe this other Celeste is understandably not happy about the association. She even changed her IG bio to Different Celeste. Now I could go down this rabbit hole too. It's a long way down, but there's very little proof surrounding it, so I'm going to leave it at that. Plus, I need to talk more about David's Discord, and this episode's already getting really long, so if you aren't familiar, Discord is an instant messaging platform that was originally used by gamers, but now a bunch of people use it for chat rooms that they call servers. I was just at a conference last week here in Colorado, and I went to a seminar about teen violence online, and I learned that Discord is the #1 website or application at this point in time where dangerous things are happening to young people. It's something that parents need to be way more aware of. But anyway, David had his own Discord server where he interacted with thousands of his fans. And as far back as 2022, he could be seen interacting with a user named Celeste. In October of 2022, he posted, "Celeste in here? ? To which this person responded, "Hi, David, bark." Again, we don't know for a fact that this was the Celeste, but if it was, it sounds like the two of them were already pretty familiar with each other, and she would have only been 12 at this time. Her name was also mentioned in February of 2024, One user mentioned that David had a girlfriend and they said her name is Celeste. What's even creepier is that same month, someone commented under one of his TikToks saying, waiting for LAPD to get your ass for messing with a 13-year-old girl. Then in August of that year, David posted on Discord that he was in a song crisis, and someone responded, drop one with the missing girl Celeste Rivas Hernandez. There's even a comment on the Romantic Homicide music video from a year ago that just says Celeste with a half-frowning emoji. So the fact her full name was known a year before all of this happened, I can't even begin to tell you guys how just infuriated I feel that people seem to have known that David was involved with a missing child, but did nothing about it or tried to do something about it, possibly, and then law enforcement did nothing about it. I mean, it's still really confusing, but somewhere here, the ball was dropped, and possibly multiple balls. And really to no surprise here, but the moderators of the Discord have really tried to distance themselves from all of this. On September 19th, they made this big long post, which YouTube viewers can pause and read if you want, where they basically said they weren't aware of her true age or that she was a missing person, and also that they really didn't have a lot of contact with David. And any mentions of Celeste basically got lost in the server due to how quickly things move. And it just doesn't shock me in the slightest that people are trying to defer blame. And sadly, that's just how these things tend to go. Now, the next discovery I need to mention has to do with the idea of David and Celeste allegedly being engaged. A few screenshots have come to light that show a girl wearing an engagement ring, and on that same finger, she has a red ink tattoo that says David. And in one of the photos, David can be seen across the table from this girl. The thing is, though, we never see her face, and we don't have any type of confirmation from law enforcement that these screenshots came from accounts that belong to Celeste. However, and I'm sure a lot of you have already made this connection, but we do know for a fact that Celeste has tattooed in red ink on her index finger. So when you think about that, maybe she would be interested in getting another red ink tattoo on her left ring finger. And what a lot of people question is, if this is Celeste in these photos, why was it never reported that a tattoo with David's name was found on the remains? But this goes back to the questions we still have about the condition she was in. She could have actually been too decomposed for them to have found this, or they may not have found her left hand at all. Or it's possible these photos aren't even hers. Therefore, this is still a huge piece of speculation, and it needs to still be treated that way for the time being. Until the police confirm which social media accounts were hers, people need to be careful when it comes to things like that. And of course, a few fake accounts have already popped up. So yeah, just tread lightly when you're consuming information on this case or trying to look into it yourself. And that brings me to David's social media, on the other hand. Yikes. Now, we have talked about his posts, but people have found that his reposts are just as eerie. Oh my God. For example, he reposted a TikTok of someone chopping up meat with the caption, "Me if I see her talk with other dudes." He also reposted one of a text conversation that reads, "Imagine if we were two cannibals in the late 80s who randomly met and then we fell in love and tried to do better and start life together. Then you died and I ate you, bones and all." Another repost reads, "When she blocks me on everything, so I pull up to the function disguised as her granddad. And me when watching her scream after I poured boiling water on her after she told a boy happy birthday because why you happy he made it another year." None of this is evidence, obviously, but it's weird as fuck. It's so disturbing, and it shows that this dude is clearly very toxic in relationships, that he could even engage with posts like this. I mean, I've never even seen anything remotely like this even come up on my algorithm, so it just shows what kind of shit he's into and what the algorithm is feeding him. And then he's going a step further and engaging with it. I think it says a lot. And it's also worth noting that Celeste may not be the only underage girl that he's allegedly had relations with. There's a screenshot going around of a conversation he allegedly had with another girl where he's basically ending things with her. It says, "Hola, okay, so I've been up all night thinking logically about you, work, life, relationships, and realized something you'd agree with if you see it the way I do. Straight from my heart, I really, really, really love you, but I have been checking my schedule for the rest of the year and next year, and I'm barely in Texas. I believe long-distance relationships work under the right conditions, like you being able to travel with me, etc., but you're still in school. With that being said, I don't like hiding anything from anyone. I would love to have a public relationship with someone. But the way this is going, we have to be secret or something. I want you to be happy, but you still have so much left to do these last 2 years of high school, and it may change your view on TS entirely. And I would gladly wait for you if we are both in the right headspace when that time comes. I want to still be here for you, though, and talk like we did before it got complicated, LMAO. I love and care about you and need to make sure you're not alone. We are still interlinked. Please express yourself thoroughly. Please, no OK or KK. I want to know everything going through your head. So obviously this tone is really weird and manipulative, and it just goes to show that this might be a pattern. Now, I'm sure there is one question that a lot of you are asking, especially those of you who are new to this case, and that is, where the fuck is David? And lying low is about as good of an answer as I can give you. We have not heard a peep from this dude, and many people don't think we will, considering the fact that he's lawyered up. He has reportedly been online at least one time at one point playing video games. And if that's true, that tells me he's basically just waiting for next steps from the police, probably. Now, as for why there hasn't been an arrest yet, how much time do you have? I could speculate about why for probably like 30 minutes, but the bottom line is there just hasn't been. At this point, we really just need the cause of death to be released to kind of figure out what direction this is all going to go from here. Whether it ends up being a homicide or not, someone put her body in that trunk, that frunk, whatever. She did not put herself in there. So there needs to be accountability and justice for that at the very minimum, although I strongly suspect homicide. I'm going to say that. It has taken a long time. It's frustrating. Things seem to be moving at a snail's pace, which is just making the online rumors even worse. But I have to remain hopeful. That's because investigators are just ensuring that they have an airtight case here. And I'm not sure what this means, but it was reported that the night before I'm recording this, on the 9th, that David transferred deeds to 2 of his houses in Texas to his mother's name. He did this on September 18th and 22nd, so right after her body was identified. Again, I could speculate on what this means, but for now, I really just want to wait and see what the police have to say. There has definitely been some talk that maybe David is being framed, which some people, including myself, think is way too far-fetched, but I did want to mention it since it has been part of the conversation, and I'd love to hear your thoughts if you're someone who believes that. I also think it's worth mentioning that someone made a fake 911 call to David's parents' house on September 18th. They were saying that they heard gunshots and believed someone was dead, specifically that they heard a female screaming, but when police arrived at their house in Texas, his parents were just very clearly confused. This is called swatting. I'm sure a lot of you know that. It's very illegal. The caller was also distorting their voice, so we can't say for sure who it was, but some people think it was someone trying to make David look worse. Some people even think maybe it was David, and who knows. And with that, you guys, I am done talking about him for now. I am so sad that this case has centered so largely around someone other than the victim. And to a degree, like I said in the beginning of the episode, I understand why he's been the focus. But as I wrap things up, I don't want Celeste to be forgotten in all of this. She was just a child when she passed away, and she did not deserve any of the circumstances that happened to her. There was a vigil for her held back in September where dozens of people gathered to light candles and honor her memory. A private funeral was also held in October where a small group of loved ones came together to lay her to rest. And I absolutely plan on keeping my eye on this case as time goes on. Getting justice is the only option here, and I'm just curious to see how things are going to play out. So please let me know if you guys are interested in a follow-up episode at some point when enough new details have emerged. I definitely consider doing that, so let me know your thoughts. But that is going to be it for me today, you guys. Thank you for sticking with me for a long one. Again, I know we didn't cover everything, because if we did and we went down all the rabbit holes, you guys would be sitting with me for like 6 hours and it would be insane. And I'm also pregnant and very tired. Okay, my brain has officially checked out. I will be back next week, of course, to discuss another case. But until then, stay safe out there.